We're talking about Tennessee. Let's bring in the Republican senator from the great state of Tennessee, Bill Hagerty. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So what
Good
do you
morning.
think? So what do you think of the president inviting the so-called Tennessee Three to the White House today?
You know, I understand that this White House is focused entirely on politics. I'm certainly focused on the covenants that those who lost their lives. We're doing what we can to put in place legislation to harden schools, to protect these children, to protect the most vulnerable. And political stunts really are secondary in mind, I think, to everyone, certainly in Tennessee, that cares about the situation at Covenant School.
Yeah,
Is that what you call it, a stunt? Do you think it was a stunt?
Well, certainly it was a stunt that took place on the floor of the Tennessee Senate. The bullhorns, all of the racket making, they knew what the rules were. But again, this has turned into something that I think the White House can make some political gains on. At least that's their calculation. I wish they would instead focus on the victims of this horrendous murder.
Yeah, what is your reaction to that? That they have not been, the families of the shooting victims have not been invited to the White House, yet they're inviting these three. Here are the faces. You have 3 9-year-olds that were killed and 3 adults.
Everyone in Tennessee's hearts are broken about this. We are extraordinarily focused on the families, those whose lives were lost. And Senator Blackburn and I have put in place legislation to harden schools at the federal level. The state legislature has put in place more resources for schools to protect them. And I think the Tennessee legislature is looking at a special session to come back together right now to see what more that can be done.
Right. But, Senator, why do you think they haven't invited the families of those who lost their lives?
Again, we've got an administration in the White House that's far more focused on press releases, spin, and politics than they are on substance and reality. It's not just what's happening here domestically, it's what's happening around the world.
Also, just real quick on the shooter, the manifesto, they say is too dangerous to release. What can you tell us about that? I'd love to know the motive of the killer.
It's been very perplexing to all of us involved. You know, it seems that certain information is flooded into the marketplace immediately if it fits the narrative, so to speak. If the information does not fit the narrative, it seems to get suppressed. I don't know what's in the manifesto. I want to be sensitive to our law enforcement officers that are going through this, but it's certainly taken a long time to figure out whether and what information can be released. Yeah. I think people do deserve to know what took place, what was in the mind of this sick person that committed these heinous murders.
Yeah, I talked to someone yesterday who knows someone who has children at that school, and they said they didn't know for hours. They couldn't get in touch with their kids. They didn't know if their kids were victims. Let's talk about this. Attorneys for Hunter Biden, they're going to meet with DOJ this week. What do you know about that situation? And what's your reaction to James Comer saying he thinks that there are going to be about 12 Biden family members that had these shady business deals?
Well, I'm not surprised at all that the investigation is beginning to open up now that you've got the House Republicans in a position to actually subpoena and get at the data. But I'll go back to a question that I asked Merrick Garland more than a year ago when he was before me. I asked him to assure me that this administration would be able to deliver an investigation in an unbiased fashion. Now that we've had the whistleblower come forward, particularly coming forward in light of his suggestion that perhaps this administration is not being unbiased, that what Attorney General Garland told me was not, in fact, the case. We need to get to the bottom of this. I'm deeply concerned about it.
Sure, because the whistleblower essentially has said that, and while unnamed in the document from his lawyer, the person at the government appointee is the Attorney General, who presented information before Congress that is not true. So he misled you. The big question is, did he know that that information was wrong? Or did somebody, for instance, from the White House or the Department of Justice give him bad information so that people would back off the Hunter case?
All the more reason to get to the bottom of it, Steve. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen here. Again, I'm very concerned about it. Many of my colleagues are, and I think we will get to the bottom of this.
Good.
All right, let's move on. We know about your dramatic events that took place where special operations came in a matter of hours, got our embassy personnel out of Sudan. That whole country's fallen apart. We understand that. While we move out, we're also concerned about the thousands left behind. Is there a plan in place for them?
What plan? Those plans are called non-combatant evacuation operation plans. And Brian, when I was U.S. ambassador to Japan, when I came in, I immediately reworked my non-combatant evacuation plan. They call them NEO plans. In Japan, I had 250,000 Americans on any given day that I needed to be responsible to identify, to process, and flow away from danger. Here, we're talking about in Sudan, roughly 16,000 Americans. That's what we know of. And again, the State Department doesn't have a full grasp of who's on the ground, but still a large number of Americans, 16,000 plus, I would say, that we need to be in a position to understand where they are to be able to protect them. Right now, all they've been told is that they need to shelter in place. But this is a grave concern. You've got Wagner Group involved here. Wagner Group came in and destroyed Syria. You see what they're doing in Ukraine right now. Now they've moved into Sudan. We've moved out, clearly. You think about the opportunity that we had with the Abraham Accords being signed in January of 2021. Sudan was one of the greatest opportunity spaces for us to improve relations in the Middle East. The Biden administration has been so unserious, not been paying attention to this relationship. The void that they've created has now allowed Russia to flow in. And again, negative in the accounts of the United States of America from a diplomatic standpoint, big positive to Russia and a plus to China, too.
You know, Senator, we have thousands of migrants that have begun this protest procession across Mexico. They're heading to Mexico City. They're demonstrating the detention centers and the demand reforms. They're demanding reforms. I know you're leading a group of Republican senators to reintroduce legislation to allow Title 42, and I believe it involves fentanyl, and maybe that would be a way for you to justify Title 42. Explain what you're doing.
Well, again, it's amazing to me that this White House is so focused on politics. They're not focused on the more than 100,000 deaths that happen every year due to drug overdoses coming across that southern border. In fact, the biggest killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45 is drug overdose, most of it fentanyl, and that fentanyl is coming across our southern border. I reintroduced legislation blocked 3 times last year, mind you, by the Democrats. I've reintroduced legislation as Title 42 is about to come down that would stand Title 42 back up and allow our Border Patrol to use Title 42 if there's any concern about fentanyl trafficking coming across that border. We all know that it's a great concern, and in fact, it's one of the greatest health crises we face here in America. I'm hopeful that this time the Democrats will wake up, pass this, and put a tool back in the hands of Border Patrol to begin to push back on this wave of humanity that's pouring across the border and bringing tons and tons of killing hundreds and thousands of people and bringing tons of deadly drugs into America.
Sure. Senator, yesterday I flew from Dallas to the New York City area, and the pilot came on before we took off, and he said, we're going to have to wait 15 minutes because we're waiting for a connecting flight. Some unaccompanied minors would be joining us, and we waited 15 minutes, and then on came 4 migrant children. Clearly from our southern border. They apparently had been flown from one of the small towns up to Dallas, next stop, New York City. Of course, here in New York, the mayor needs billions of dollars because so many migrants are coming into the United States. How are these cities that currently are faced with these gigantic bills for social programs and everything else, how are they going to be made whole by the federal government? Because Congress has got to approve the money, but I know there are a lot of Republicans in Congress who would say no.
Well, these cities first need to look at their own sanctuary city laws that act as magnets to draw these illegal immigrants to their cities. The other thing, though, is we need to continue to put pressure on this White House to seal that southern border. Again, this is costing lives. The human tragedy there is just unbelievable. I've been there on numerous occasions. I can't get my Democrat colleagues to go, but if you could see the carnage that's coming across this border, people are dying there. You've got young people that have no business being involved in this, young ladies that have been trafficked, moved by these coyotes for a month and a half to 2 months and a half on a very dangerous journey.
Right.
Many of them don't get here. Those that do, very bad things happen. And again, the fentanyl that's coming across is killing Americans every single day.
And Senator, I don't know if you saw the story in the New York Times. It looks like the Biden administration has opened up another back door to allow hundreds of thousands of migrants. They're going to expand the very controversial parole program for Haitians, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, and other people from nations supposedly in distress, and Cubans, although they've had the same government for a while.
I think all they're doing, Brian, is trying to find ways to more rapidly process people across the border, to try to take the awkward camera shots away so that the public doesn't see what they're actually doing. But they are flooding our borders. We're at probably 6 million that have come here illegally since the Biden administration started. They're going to take that number closer to 10 million people by the time this administration has finished its term.
Well, Senator, we know you've got a busy week ahead. Thank you very much for starting it with Fox and Friends.